Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call to order this Monday, October 6th, regular meeting of Council at 6 p.m. I will ask Councillor Hughes, sorry, before we start, Councillor Hallerou, I've reassigned your resolutions, just so you're aware. And Councillor Hughes, I'll ask for the agenda to be adopted. Oh, sorry. Call for disclosures of pecuniary interest before we go any further. Seeing none? Councillor Hughes, go ahead.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry about that. My apologies. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, that the agenda for the October 6, 2025 meeting of the Town of Ingersoll Council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Councillor Hudson?
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, that the items contained in the October 6, 2025 consent agenda be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed. That's carried. And Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, the minutes to be adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the minutes from the September 8th, 2025 regular meeting of Council be adopted as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed. That's carried. And we're moving on to delegations and presentations. We have exciting guest here today, Josh Benoit, a MURC presentation from Colliers. I know everyone's looking forward to this update, so whenever you're ready, feel free to go ahead and begin.
Awesome. Hello, Deputy Mayor, members of Council, Town of Ingersoll. Thanks for having me. I think it's been a while since we were here last. I just come to talk to you about the MURC. And a bit of an agenda here, so we're going to look at some project updates, talk a little bit about the design and talk about where we're at, so, talk about our sustainability goals and some of the things that we're looking to achieve, some things we're looking at. Talk about a little bit about some of the funding opportunities that we've been targeting, touch high level on the schedule to give you an idea of where we're going, and then some next steps. So in terms of updates, so the project includes a few key areas here. You'll see the draft plan of subdivision, the Clark Road urbanization, and of course the multi-use rec center. So currently, the draft plan is in the draft stages. The draft plan of the 78-acre parcel includes a long-term care facility, an elementary school, multiple areas of residential, and a multi-use rec center. Current design accommodates 2 locations also for stormwater management. Clark Road urbanization includes the widening and servicing extensions from Harris Street along Clark Road to the new development. Currently, design is in the preliminary stages. The requirement for an an environmental assessment was identified and currently is ongoing. Actually, a public consultation was completed in September and held here to discuss the project with the community. The work will coincide with the County of Oxford's intersection upgrades at the crossroads of Harris and Clark Road. And then finally, we have the multi-use rec center. Current design is approximately 30% complete. Design is focusing on the key areas defined by the community, which are a single pad rink, the potential to expand to a double pad in the future, a gymnasium space that accommodates various rec sports, things like basketball, volleyball, pickleball, fitness classes. Also community events in that space. We talked about some things, fundraisers, weddings, community celebrations came to mind. The design also includes a walking track on the second level of the rink, a multi-purpose room that could accommodate anything from a small to a medium-sized business meetings, presentations, workshops, video conferencing, social gatherings, educational and training activities. Also, we have creative and paintings. So, talking about design, so right now, like I said, we're about 30% complete and progressing towards a guaranteed maximum price, targeting the end of this year. Currently, we have the archaeological studies, stages 1 through 3 are complete. Environmental impact studies are ongoing, expected to wrap up the fall of 2025. And then expecting to start phase 2, which is the MURC final design and construction phase, in 2026. So here we have just a picture of the draft plan. It's a little bit tough to see here, but you can, on the top left, northwest and southwest corners, the space is designated for the stormwater management. Residential, predominantly along Clark Road there along the north. About mid-west there is the block for the LTC, going from right to left there. At the south is the MURC location, and then mid-right there, mid-east side, would be the block for the elementary school. All right, and then here we see the draft plan for the MURC specifically. So you see the location that's been proposed for the facility itself. It also shows the expansion towards the south for the second rink, as well as expansion for future parking towards the south. You see the stormwater management pond, as we spoke about earlier, in the southwest corner there. The area where it says draft site plan, that's future expansion for recreational space there. Parkland as well. On the next slide, it kind of gives you an idea of the first floor, and just targeting some of the things that we spoke about earlier. So on the right there, you see the gymnasium. Coming off the gym, that also includes, we talked about things like a commercial kitchen for catering events and whatnot, some office space in that eastern portion, as well as concession, washrooms, and the reception, and a pro shop along the north there by the main entry. Moving west towards the rink, you see the rink slab. Obviously, right now we have detailed 8 dressing rooms. 2 of them will be dedicated for accessibility. The rink itself also accessible. Moving back towards the west side there, that's the back of house services, electrical, mechanical, the ice melt pit, and the Zamboni. Also, some consideration was given to just some storage for some of the on-ice equipment, like your nets, training equipment, things like that. Moving to the second floor, you see the large walking track there that goes around the entire upper area of the rink slab. And then moving back east here, we have some multi-purpose room that comes off the south end of the gymnasium. That can be divided into 2 spaces that we spoke about earlier, and then some office spaces up top as well. At the east side of the rink, there is a warm viewing area that also doubles as a multi-use space for various activities. So looking at some renderings here now, just to give you a better idea of where we're at. This is the view looking from the northeast corner at the building. So that would be their front main entry there, just on the right with the canopy. You see lots of glazing, lots of natural light coming in. This is the gymnasium here on this front right corner. And then the rink slab moves back towards the west. This is a view looking back towards the main entry in the main lobby. So you have your feature stair on your right. The gymnasium's on the right side of that as well. And then the reception and concessions would be right there on your left. This is a view from the southeast corner of the rink, looking back. So on the far side, you see the warm viewing area and colored in red there. The rink, obviously. Seating there for approximately, it's around 500 bleacher seats. And then you see the multi-use, or the walking track just on the right side in the maroon with the red stripe with the 2-lane. As we move back away from the rink, so this is the gymnasium. We've included things like some bleacher seating there, full court basketball. You can do full court volleyball. You could, they can also do half split courts, pickleball, various activities. You don't see kind of the idea would be from the kitchen and reception or catering access would be on the far right here. Looking at some of the sustainability things, or sorry, sustainability items that we're considering. So heat and energy recovery, be used for things like heating bleacher seating, potential supplemental heat in change rooms, snow melt pits, things like that. Utilizing local building materials and suppliers. This is a great way to reduce the project's carbon footprint and also supports Ontario businesses. Building automation systems, they help to to manage energy consumption in real time. They allow for the ability to monitor and control building systems to optimize their use in relation to the building's programming schedule. LED lighting, it's a very common thing that we see nowadays. It's a great way to help achieve the facility's energy efficiency goals. It also produces a clear and vibrant light that includes flexible controls that are flexible for a number of activities in those multi-use spaces, so dimmable capabilities. Working with the various building systems to understand if implementing equipment that runs partially or even entirely on renewable sources is achievable, and then what are the benefits for that. Some of the funding opportunities that we've been targeting, Community Sports and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, the Health and Safety Water Stream, the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund, and the Housing Enabling Water Fund. The town was actually successful for the Housing Enabling Water System Fund for approximately $2.5 million. So the money will go towards the design and construction of the stormwater management systems. Looking ahead here at a schedule, some high-level dates for the MURC enabling works. We're anticipating that will start here in spring 2026. So that'll include access to the facility, to the project site, and also some pre-grading activities. Also, Clark Road and urbanization and the MURC construction anticipating kind of to start around the same time. That would be summer of 2026. Some next steps here. Looking to finalize the GMP and the council presentation. So the GMP is a guaranteed maximum price, and that's what we're working towards with the Progressive Design Builder. We're looking to present that to council in the coming months. We'd also like to finalize the detailed design to 100% and to start planning construction activities and procurements. As part of the funding agreement with the Hughes grant, the town will need to consult with some local Indigenous communities, and we've already started that process. Meet and coordinate the site plan, permitting, and approvals with MTO, Oxford County, and Ingersoll building officials. So that's kind of our next 6 to 8 months in a nutshell. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? No questions. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Halleru, I can't see you. Did you have any questions?
No, don't worry. No. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right.
All right, seeing none, I will.
I'm sorry, I have a question. So when will we be able to see an actual detailed plan? Like, this is great to see, but it's just general. Like, here's the ice pad, here's the basketball court.
I have a question.
Sorry, I couldn't tell who was speaking. I thought it was Councillor Halleru.
No,
sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry, Councillor Halleru, just one moment, please. I really appreciate the question and your engagement, but in a council meeting, it's not a public meeting. And so what I would ask you to do is maybe email Mr. Graves. Maybe we'll write down his email address, and you can ask your questions of Michael, who is our...
So we are definitely independent of the town. Responsibilities of management on page 5, it just highlights briefly is that the financial statements are management's financial statements. Our job is actually to audit those financial statements. And at the end of the audit, we receive, and we actually received it today through Irene and Michael, is letter of general representation from management. It just highlights everything that we've been inquiring throughout the course of the audit, and they've just verified that, yes, all those points are true. Some of the reportable matters. One of the things that we always take a look at is significant accounting principles and policies. And the reason why is that if you ever want to manipulate your numbers and do it within the standards, you would just change your accounting policy. And if you made a change to an accounting policy, it could have a significant impact on the bottom line of the financial statements. And we're fine with that if the policy is appropriate in the circumstances, but the key behind that is that you treat it either prospectively or retrospectively to make sure that those policies then travel through the previous year's financial statement, for example, so that any changes are done on a consistent manner, so you're not going up and down from year to year. And we've noted that there aren't any significant or unusual transactions or significant or unusual changes in accounting policies throughout the year. We always take a look at materiality as far as the audit is concerned, and materiality is sort of key in our audit plan is that we can't examine every single number. So we come up with a number that we would consider what would be a point where it would affect the decisions of the users of the financial statement. So we kind of base our testing on that, and from there we also then look at any differences from a trivial matter that we would normally make a recommendation for any of those changes. Misstatements and significant audit adjustments. And again, the same thing as if we've had any significant audit adjustments throughout the course of the audit, and we'd like to report that we haven't. So we've worked with Irina and her staff throughout the audit and didn't come up with any significant audit changes. And if we ever did in the past, is what would happen is we're working with Irina at the time. If we just did discover something, those adjustments would have been made throughout the course of the audit. Last point is that, we did not discover any misstatements arising from fraud or irregularities. We always do a test of internal controls, which set the policy standards, and that's highlighted on the next page briefly. But then we also use that to take a look at if there is anything that has come to a point where there was a transaction that was done that wasn't valid, and then if there was, looking into it a little bit further to see the source of that transaction. We just report that we didn't discover any significant deficiencies in our internal controls or any matters related to fraud throughout the course of the audit. Illegal acts, the same thing. Our inquiries with management and throughout the course of the audit, we did not reveal any fraud or illegal acts. I'd like to highlight difficulties that we did not encounter any difficulties throughout the course of the audit. And I'd like to also state is that we received excellent cooperation from Irina and her staff. All of our questions that we had throughout the audit were very quickly answered and answered appropriately. So there was no issues. A couple of changes coming up. Standards effective April 1, 2026. These are 2 years out now. It's not for 2026 year end. It'll be for year ends beginning April 1. So it's going to be 2027 year ends. They're talking about a change in the sort of our whole reporting framework for public sector accounting. There's a different frameworks for accounting publicly. There's international financial standards, which is all public companies or GBEs, hydro companies, for example, have to follow IFRS. We run into then part 2 is small business standards, not-for-profit standards, pension plans, and public sector. Those are sort of our reporting standards, and everyone follows the same framework, but they've got a little bit of twists to them. And that standard, the framework is going to be changing a little bit coming up in 2027, and same as the financial statement presentation. And if for anyone that's been here long enough, they would have seen significant changes to the audited financial statements over the last 20 to 25 years. If anyone recalls, I see one gentleman that's acknowledging maybe, but the financial statements for municipalities used to just be so perfect. If you had a surplus at the end, all it was a transfer to reserves. If you have a deficit at the end, all it was a transfer from reserves. So your statements were always zero. And then that modified to saying, well, that's not really reality. They modified it a little bit, but they still accomplished the same thing. Now these financial statements are really, except for specific requirements, they're essentially the same as any other business financial statement that we see. I remember one counselor made a comment quite a few years ago when we first started this presentation, and he said, well, these statements are just like my condo boards, except they're a lot bigger. And that's what it is. So the reporting standards are done consistently now so that you can have comparability amongst all of them. But again, I guess on behalf of Millards, through the Deputy Mayor, if there's any question, or Mayor, if there's any questions and councillors, I'd be pleased to answer any.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I don't see any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hudson?
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the delegation from Millards Chartered Professional Accountants regarding the 2024 consolidated financial statements be received as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried. We will be moving on to the public meeting portion of the evening for planning application ZN 6-25-02. I declare the public meeting to be open. This meeting is being constituted as a public meeting held under the Planning Act to consider proposed amendments to Consolidated Zoning Bylaw 04-4160. Any person in attendance, including those participating virtually, may make a presentation to council in support or opposition to the zone change applications. Individuals who wish to receive the decision of council on any application being considered this evening must sign the record of attendance outside of council chambers or submit written request to the attention of the town clerk, Danielle Richard, at danielle.richard@ingersoll.ca. The Ontario Land Tribunal has the power to dismiss an appeal under subsection 25 if an appellant has not provided council with oral submissions at a public meeting or a written submission before a bylaw is passed under this section. The application to be heard this evening concerns application ZN 6-2502, 2707-130 Ontario Inc., 90 Samna Crescent. Does any member of council have a conflict of interest on the application to be considered? Seeing none. Has the clerk received any additional correspondence on the application that has not been noted on the agenda?
I have not.
Thank you. I now ask the planner, Heather St. Clair, to provide an overview of the application and an explanation of the request zoning amendment.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and good evening, Council. So as noted, the town has received an application for zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the subject lands from restricted industrial zone MR to a special restricted industrial zone to permit a standalone daycare as a permitted use on the subject lands, in addition to the list of permitted uses in the MR zone. The applicant is proposing to renovate the existing industrial building located at 90 Samna Crescent to establish a 365 square meter or 3,830 square foot daycare center in the existing 983 square meter or 10,590 square foot industrial building that would accommodate 88 children and 22 employees, together with a new outdoor play space, which would be located at the rear of the building. The remainder of the building would continue to be used for industrial purposes, which the applicant has indicated consists of warehousing and accessory office space. In support of the proposal, the applicant has submitted a site plan, which can be shown on plate 3 of the staff report shown on the screen, as well as an environmental site assessment, a functional servicing report, and a planning justification and land use compatibility analysis. So the subject lands are located on the east side of Samna Crescent and are approximately 1.6 acres in size, with approximately 25 meters or 82 feet of frontage on Samna Crescent. The subject lands contain the existing industrial building and parking area, and surrounding land uses are predominantly industrial throughout the Samna Crescent Industrial Park, as well as residential uses to the immediate east. So staff will be reviewing the application under the policy direction of the provincial planning statement and the county's official plan. The subject lands are designated as industrial in the county's official plan, which permits the full range of industrial type land uses, together with accessory uses such as offices and daycare facilities that are accessory to the industrial uses and for their employees. The subject lands are also part of a site-specific policy area that applies to the entirety of the Samna Crescent Industrial Park area. These policies were established to create a business park setting for the Samna Crescent Industrial Area and are generally intended to facilitate the development of a full range of light industrial, technological, office, and business support uses in a business park setting. Uses within this specific policy area are to be characterized by low-profile buildings on individual lots and include such uses as traditional light industrial uses located wholly within an enclosed building, business support services, technological industries and office services, ancillary showrooms, retail, and wholesale and sale uses. And in addition to the accessory uses permitted in the industrial areas, this site-specific policy also permits trade schools, conference facilities and catering businesses, facilities used primarily for fraternal lodges, service clubs, trade unions, community cultural organizations, and similar groups, and may include meeting rooms and banquet facilities for the general public, as well as police, fire, and ambulance stations. And lands within the site-specific policy area are subject to the town's site plan approval process. The policies for industrial uses do direct that when considering daycare uses in the industrial designation, the policies for the minor institutional designation shall be met. And these policies outline specific development criteria for institutional uses, including daycares, and provide that such uses are permitted within the industrial designation. However, Town Council may limit the range of minor institutional uses permitted within the particular designation through the zoning bylaw. And these uses, as noted, would be subject to site plan approval from the town. Considerations for site plan approval for the development of such uses as daycares would include the provision of on-site parking for staff, appropriate vehicle access for drop-off and pickup of children, fencing or landscape buffering around play areas, the paving of parking areas to prevent any rising of dust, and on-site stormwater management. The property is currently zoned as restricted industrial in the town zoning bylaw, which also permits a range of light industrial uses. One letter was received in support of the application as part of our public circulation process, and staff will be providing a supplementary report to council outlining all comments that have been received from staff, and it will include a recommendation from the planning department at a future meeting. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now open the meeting to comments from the public. This portion of the meeting provides the opportunity for individuals to speak to the application and have their comments considered by the planner and council before a report and recommendation on the requested zoning amendment is brought forward for a decision at a subsequent council meeting. Any person from the audience who wishes to provide comments in support or opposition of the application may do so now by coming forward to the lectern and stating their name and address for the public record. Come on up.
Good evening, Madam and members of council. My name is Ruchika Angrich. I'm from the Angrich Group. I'm a professional planner and representing the owner for this particular application for zone change. Heather has given a detailed explanation of the proposal. So we are seeking conversion of a portion of the building for a daycare facility. There's adequate parking, and that has been provided, and outdoor child play space has been included as well on the site plan. Number of studies that were requested by staff, we have completed those. We do understand that this is a step one in the application process, which will include a further site plan control application before we can apply for building permits to go into the details and establish the actual facility. As part of the zoning application and the overview of the uses, we did note that we're short one parking space because the way the building and the site is laid out. So we're seeking requests for one short parking space as well as part of this amendment. I believe, I think I'm here to answer any specific questions if any members have, and hopefully I can address some of those aspects today. Thank you.
Thank you. So my apologies, I should have asked for a representative of the applicant, which is you, so thank you for that. But if there are any other members of the public who wanted to speak to the application, now would be your time to come up as well. Seeing none. Members of council now have the opportunity to ask any questions about the application. However, they may not offer comments at this time. Do any members of council have any questions? Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is a question for you or for Heather. You did say that you're looking for a minor variance on one less parking spot. Now, is that parking spot all inclusive to the rest of the building operations, or is that just specifically for the daycare?
Through you, madam. Thank you for your question. It is actually, we did the analysis for the entirety of the uses that are happening in the building, including the warehousing and the wholesale, so, and office spaces plus daycare. So overall, it's one short. There will be 9 parking spaces that are required in accordance with the zoning bylaw that will be provided closer to where the daycare entrance will be.
Any other questions? Seeing none, if there are no further comments or questions, then the public meeting for this application has now concluded. The application will now be scheduled to come before council at a subsequent meeting, during which the planner's report and recommendation will be considered. As a reminder, if any member of the audience wishes to be notified of the decision of council in respect of any zoning bylaw amendments, they must submit a written request to the town clerk, Danielle Richard, at danielle.richard@ingersoll.ca. The clerk must provide notice of council's decision to all those who request a copy within 15 days after the day the bylaw is passed. The Planning Act provides for an appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal from a decision made by the town of Ingersoll within 20 days of issuing the notice of decision. Only specified persons, public bodies, registered owners of land to which the plan may apply, the requester to amend the plan, and the minister may appeal the decision of the town to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Excluding the minister, any party wishing to make an appeal must have made written or oral submissions. Okay. Excluding the minister, any party wishing to make an appeal must have made written or oral submissions to the council at a public meeting. Please note that third parties, anyone who is not a specified person or public body, do not have the right to appeal a decision for a zone change amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Councillor Hughes, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive report CP 2025-287 as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that's carried. All right, moving on to our next presentation.
Add some visual effects into the council meetings nowadays. Yep. Yeah. House of Frightened.
I think we're ready. So we have Meghan, Oxford County Senior Planner, who will get us started on the report whenever you're ready.
Yep. Okay, good evening, Deputy Mayor and members of council. We've included a package of information in your agenda today that summarizes draft findings of a study to update the county's growth forecasts and settlement area land needs. The current growth forecasts and land needs assessment that we've been using was adopted by County Council in 2020. But since that last study, significant growth has occurred in the county, which warrants an update. The county initiated the current study in 2024, and it's being undertaken by Watson and Associates economists. County Council received the draft population, household, and employment growth forecasts in November 2024, and authorized planning staff to undertake the remainder of the project based on those forecasts. So the county council report was circulated to all area municipal councils. We are now consulting on the draft land needs assessment, and Jamie Cook from Watson Associates is joining us virtually to present the findings. The findings presented today are draft, and we're seeking feedback from council. We've been meeting with various groups and we'll make presentations to all the area and municipal councils through September and October. And we're aiming to present the final findings to County Council in November for their consideration. So now, through the Deputy Mayor, I'll ask Jamie to start his presentation.
Thank you, Megan, and good evening, Mayor, members of Council. It's a real pleasure to be able to speak to you today to present to you the draft findings of our growth analysis and land needs study. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So we're going to walk through a fairly brief presentation, about 10 minutes or so, and I'm just going to walk through the key highlights of this study. If you can go to the first slide. So Meghan provided an introduction to this slide and the need for this update. So just a bit of a further breakdown of the key components of the study. The first was the long-term projections for population growth, housing, and employment over a 2056 planning horizon for the county. And then that growth was then allocated by each of the area municipalities within the county, as well as within as well as by urban and rural area, as well as by policy area, and I'll speak to some of that as we get through the presentation. We also prepared an intensification analysis working with Dillon Consulting, looking at opportunities for short-term residential intensification within the county over the next 10 years. From there, we prepared a land needs assessment looking at the needs for community areas, which is essentially where people live, as well as employment areas, which is essentially where people work, and we prepared that forecast over a 20 to 30-year planning horizon in accordance with the provincial policy framework. And then from there, we prepared a number of strategic growth management directions to inform the county's official plan. Next slide. I wanted to provide a little bit of background on the provincial policy context. So when preparing a study like this, we do work within the context of the provincial planning framework as well as the local planning framework. With respect to the provincial planning framework, an important document is the provincial planning statement. That document was updated last October and is now in effect. What it does is it combines the 2020 provincial policy statement and the Places to Grow plan into one integrated document. And the primary intention of this document was to ultimately consolidate the two documents and provide a more prescriptive, less prescriptive and more outcome-based approach to planning in Ontario. There's a lot of details in this document that I'm not going to go through today, but I did want to mention a couple key points. The first is that we are now required to consider the Ministry of Finance growth projections as a base, but we can modify as appropriate. And the PPS does identify that we can project growth out over a 20 to 30-year planning horizon when we're looking at the designation of land. So we can do population projections to project longer than a 30-year period for the purpose of, say, infrastructure planning, for example. But when it comes to designating lands, we are limited to a 30-year period. And so this information that's provided in this document that we're presenting today is also intended to inform the county official plan, as I mentioned. So there's a number of specific recommendations that are ultimately provided in our report to guide this official plan review for the county. So I want to provide just a little bit of background on some of the key aspects of what's been driving growth within Oxford County and Ingersoll over the last 10 years or so, and what we expect will continue to drive growth, and what are these trends that we're anticipating. This first slide here is a summary of net migration trends within Oxford County. There's really only two things that really drive population growth: net migration and natural increase. And net migration is really the key story of what's been driving population growth across Oxford County. So this slide here shows that net migration trend over the last 25 years. In the dark blue in this bar graph is the interprovincial net migration that we've been experiencing across Oxford County over that time period. So interprovincial migration is essentially migration that's been coming from other parts of Ontario to Oxford County. And off to the right, you can see where that interprovincial migration has been coming from. So it's been largely coming from the west side of the Greater Golden Horseshoe in places like Waterloo, as well as places like Brant County, Halton, and Norfolk. We've also seen some interprovincial migration coming from the Middlesex Census District area. And so this has really been the key driving sort of factor for population growth within Oxford County. Given Oxford's location within the directly located to the west of the Greater Golden Horseshoe, which is the fastest growing area in Ontario, and that western side being the fastest growing region within the Greater Golden Horseshoe, it's put a lot of growth pressure on Oxford County, including Ingersoll. And we've also seen high growth coming from London as well, which has really been the key driver. There's been some additional demand from international migration, which is identified here in the light blue, but it's been a relatively minor component of that overall story. On the next slide, I just want to provide a few more points on what those key drivers are and how they're anticipated to continue to drive population growth across Oxford County. So if you look at this schematic here and focus on the purple hexagon on the bottom left component or area of the slide, what I wanted to speak to is, first of all, there's been a significant amount of outward growth pressure that we just spoke to that's been driving that population growth. A lot of that's been associated with the need for affordable or attainable grade-related housing options that are not ultimately available within the Greater Golden Horseshoe, and particularly in the larger urban centers of the GTHA, the Greater Toronto area and Hamilton. So that's putting that significant pressure for additional housing opportunities, particularly grade-related housing opportunities to accommodate new families and the growing population within Oxford. We've also seen a significant increase in and recovery in the local economic conditions in Oxford County and the Middlesex economic region over the last decade following the economic downturn in 2008 and 9. And so that's providing more local job opportunities within this economic region, as well as additional opportunities for commuting that we're continuing to experience largely through opportunities for hybrid work and remote work. I mentioned the strategic location. That location along that 401 and 403 corridor is a key aspect that's been driving that population and employment growth. When we look at population trends for municipalities in West Ontario, we tend to see that those population growth rates are highest in municipalities closest to the GGH along that 401 or 403 and 402 corridor. As we get further away from those major 400 series highways, we typically see the growth rates coming down. So as a result of this population growth, we've seen significant migration. A lot of that migration has been coming through from younger age groups with families. That's also supporting a more robust population with a younger population, and ultimately supporting a younger and more vibrant labor force. I'll leave it there, but we can definitely have some further discussion on some of these trends if you'd like. On the next slide, I wanted to then get into the details of how some of these trends are impacting growth. So this slide provides a summary of the long-term forecast for Oxford County over the next 40-year period. So we're looking very far out here from a 2021 period, the last census, to 2061. We've embraced the forecast that's coming out of the latest Ministry of Finance projections, and then we've extended that further out to 2061 to make sure we have a long enough runway to provide our analysis here and ensure that we have a full 30-year planning horizon for several years to come as we implement this plan. So you can see here the forecast for Oxford County is a population of 223,600 by 2061. That's an increase of just under 97,000 people from that 2021 period to 2061. That represents an annual growth rate of about 1.4%. So just to give you some context, the province is projected to grow at a rate of about 1.1%. So we are located in a fast-growing area of the province. We've been growing faster, and we're projected to continue to grow faster than the province as a whole. The next slide provides a summary of the employment forecast for the county. So the Ministry of Finance doesn't provide employment forecasts. These are provided specifically by in-house modeling by Watson and Associates. Similarly, we're projecting a strong employment growth rate of about 1.4%. That generates an increase of about just under 44,000 jobs from 2024, which is our base estimate, to 2061. So a lot of that employment is anticipated to come from population-related employment. So jobs that are associated with the population growth, like retail, schools, education, personal service uses, for example. But we're also anticipating about just under 40% of the job growth to come from the industrial sector, and sectors like manufacturing, wholesale trade, warehousing and transportation, construction, and energy, for example. The remaining 20% of the jobs are anticipated to come from work at home and off-site categories, including some modest growth in the primary sector, which would be largely the agricultural sector. Next slide. So then that provides a basis for our growth allocations by area municipality. You can see here that we've prepared allocations for each area municipality based on a number of supply and demand factors, which I won't get into in detail. We've identified about 8% of that population growth being in Ingersoll within the countywide total, and about 14% of the employment forecast. Next slide. So this, the next few slides provides an overview of the population projections and employment projections, as well as housing for Ingersoll. This first slide provides a summary of the population forecast for Ingersoll. Over the 2021 to 2061 period, we're projecting an increase of 14,000 people to 22,600. So it's an increase of just over 8,000 persons, representing a growth rate of about 1.2%. So a similar growth rate to the county as a whole, just a little bit lower than that overall countywide forecast in terms of the rate. In terms of the employment forecast, we are projecting, I think the next slide is actually housing. So if you go to the next slide. So this summarizes the housing forecast that's required to accommodate that population. So we're identifying a total, I think it's actually easier to show this or discuss this in annual housing. So this forecast represents from 21 to 30 to 61 represents about 90 households per year. Historically, you can see over the last 10 years, we've been doing about 73 households a year. So it's about almost a 25% increase in the annual rate of housing. You can also see that in the colors here that we're identifying the housing by structure type, or sometimes what's referred to as density type. We are projecting a steady shift in the demand for housing from low density to medium and high. So we are anticipating more demand for medium and high density housing, largely to accommodate an aging population, as well as continued upward pressure on housing affordability. But overall, the town is still anticipated to be largely dominated by grade-related housing options, including single and semi-detached and townhome housings. The next slide provides a summary of the employment forecast. Overall, we're projecting an employment increase from just under 10,000 to 16,200. So it's just over 6,000 jobs across the town over that long-term period. And that's a growth rate of about 1.3%. So we are actually projecting a slightly faster employment rate over time relative to the population, but relatively close in terms of that overall rate of growth. So from there, we've assessed the overall need for urban lands, which is a key aspect of what this study is intended to look at. And just to break this down a bit in detail for you, as I mentioned, when we're looking at urban land needs, we're generally looking at two buckets of urban land, one being the community area, which is generally where people live, including retail and other population-related employment like schools, hospitals, things like that. The other category is employment areas. This is generally industrial type development where people work. Within the community area, then we break that down into two further policy areas, one being the built-up area. This is identified as the location of where housing units were built as of 2006. The county's drawn a line around these areas and identified where these built-up areas are located. They generally account for the intensification component within our forecast. The remaining lands that are within the urban boundary of Ingersoll, but outside of the built-up area represent greenfield areas. So these are generally areas where you have vacant lands that can accommodate future residential development that are not active yet in active plans of subdivision. Within the built-up area, we've also broken that down into two categories, including nodes and corridors, and the remaining built-up area, which is largely stable residential neighborhoods. So on the next slide, this provides a summary of how that forecast for housing is broken down over the 30-year planning horizon. We've identified an intensification rate of about 25%, which is an increase from the current target in the official plan of 15%. That works out to about 24 units a year. The remaining 75% of the forecast has been identified in greenfield areas, and that represents about 72 units a year. On the next slide, we've broken down the employment as well between community areas and employment areas. So this is essentially showing now where do those jobs fall on the ground. So about 43% of the jobs that we've identified are anticipated to be accommodated in community areas, which would include commercial, institutional employment, as well as work at home and work that has employees that have no fixed place of work, like traveling salesmen, truck drivers, for example, which represents that off-site employment component. The other 57% of the employment is identified to be located in industrial type uses within the town. Next slide. So building on all that analysis, we then prepared a land needs assessment. So the land needs assessment essentially compares the supply of lands within the greenfield areas that we've identified against the demand. And so what we've identified is that there is a slight shortfall of available greenfield lands to accommodate the growth forecast over the 20 to 30-year time period. Over the next 20 years, it's relatively small at 2 hectares. And over the 30-year time horizon, it's growing relatively still modest, but growing to 36 hectares. So overall, this is not a large shortfall of land over a 30-year period, but it does represent that the land supply is tight over that time period, and that over the longer term, the town will need to look at options to adjust its corporate boundary to accommodate these lands. We would anticipate that there won't be a need to really prioritize this in this official plan review, but over the longer term, it should be identified as an action. The next slide provides a summary of the employment land needs. So again, those industrial lands. And with a relatively healthy forecast for industrial that we've explained, we do identify that there is enough land to accommodate the employment forecast over the 20 to 30-year period. It does get rather tight over the 30-year period at a surplus of just 8 hectares. We would note that changes in the absorption of land, things like density, any major changes in economic conditions can have a result of this going up or down. So it's important to monitor this over the long term, but we do acknowledge that there's sufficient land based on our findings today to accommodate this long-term industrial forecast. So in conclusion, just in terms of next steps, which is the final slide, wanted to end with just how we've been consulting and where we're going from here. So we've met with all the local municipalities over the spring of this year to discuss these results. We then consulted with interested parties in August and September, largely members of the development community. And then we're now entering a period of local consultation with the area municipality councils. We have a few more councils to present to, and then we'll be finalizing our draft analysis with the county with the final report coming now a bit later in October, and then aiming to get back to county council with our final results most likely sometime in November of this year. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cook? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowman, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, Did the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the presentation from Meghan House, Oxford County Senior Policy Planner, regarding updates to the county growth forecasts and land needs analysis as information?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed? That's carried. Moving on to staff reports, we'll start with this report on the Safe and Well Summit, report C0325. Mr. Graves?
I'm going to turn this directly over to the clerk to take care. Thank you.
Thank you. So this report is intended to obtain council direction on which two members of council you would like to attend the 2025 Safe and Well Summit, which is currently scheduled for November 7th at the Mount Elgin Community Center. So the Safe and Well Summit is hosted by the county, and it typically provides an update on the Joint Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, which was first adopted in 2021 under the Community Safety and Policing Act. So the plan is a legislated one that's developed and overseen by the county on behalf of all 8 lower tier municipalities. At the time, each council delegated authority for the plan to the county. And it identifies local priority risks and outlines strategies to improve safety and well-being while reducing pressure on law enforcement through proactive collaboration. The county is currently leading an update on the plan as required under the Act, so it has to be updated every 5 years. And this year's summit is expected to focus on the update to the plan by reviewing what has been achieved so far and gathering feedback to guide future improvements. So historically, the invitations to attend the summit have been just to the service providers that support the plan priority areas, staff, and then heads of council. However, this year we learned that attendance is being expanded to include 2 council members per municipality. Unfortunately, the county let me know that the formal invitation would not be sent out prior to this council meeting date, so this report is intended to allow council to have that discussion and decide who they want to send to that summit. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions about the report? Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. Does this meeting include any of the detachment board, police OPP detachment board members?
Through the Deputy Mayor to you, Councillor Hughes, I am not sure. We haven't been provided a lot of details on the summit, just what's attached to the staff report, so the save the date. However, I'm happy to email the lead at the county and then send that information out to all of council once I have it. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens?
Well, I have the motion, and I know that Deputy Mayor Wilson has, you've said that you would like to attend. I got an indication from Councillor Hudson that she might like to attend just a second ago, but I just wanted to confirm that. Yes. Is there anyone else from council that would like to attend? No.
So just to be clear, you have nods from the Deputy Mayor and from Councillor Hudson as well?
Hudson, yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Do we know whether the mayor was wanting to attend, or does anybody know?
I don't need to raise my hand as chair, I suppose.
You can just go ahead and speak.
I spoke to Mayor Petrie this morning and expressed that I would like to go, and he was supportive of that, and he didn't say that he would like to go. So it's not a specific answer, but we did speak about it this morning.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Great. I will go ahead and read the motion. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report C-038-25 as information, and the Council selects the following 2 members to attend the 2025 Safe and Well Summit on November 7th, Deputy Mayor Lindsay Wilson and Councillor Shannon Hudson.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Moving on to the next staff report, 2026 council meeting schedule. Mr. Graves.
Again, I'm going to turn this one directly over to the clerk.
Thank you. So this report presents the proposed 2026 regular council meeting schedule for council's approval. As outlined in the procedure bylaw, regular meetings are normally held at 6 p.m. on the second Monday of each month. However, once the 2026 operating budget has been approved and comes into effect, Section 5.3.2 of the bylaw allows for an additional discretionary meeting on the fourth Monday of each month. So the second meeting would be scheduled and confirmed as needed following the guidelines in Appendix A of the procedure bylaw that we are now operating from as of this evening, which is included in this report. So the proposed schedule as detailed in the report follows that framework, identifying both regular and the discretionary meeting dates for the year. So upon approval, staff will then move forward with scheduling those dates and putting them in council's calendars. The only adjustment is in October, where the meeting is moved to the first Monday to avoid the Thanksgiving holiday, as we have done this evening, and where no second meeting is scheduled due to the municipal election on October 26th. So the final meeting of the current term of council will be held in November, with the inaugural meeting of the 2026-2030 term of council scheduled for November 16th, 2026. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions of the staff report? Oh, sorry, Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens.
Sorry, I just have one. I just want to make sure that I'm reading it correctly. If the operating budget has been approved, then we would have a second discretionary meeting. But I'm assuming budget meetings are going to be scheduled then in between on the first and third Mondays then? Is that how we're looking at doing that? Or are we hoping that they're going to be a part of it? Do we know? I don't mean to put you on the spot. I didn't even think about emailing that one till now.
Yeah, I could start. So we do have a couple of budget meetings that have been sent out to council. So November you're going to put me on the spot here. November the 3rd, I believe, is the first budget meeting. So there are a couple that are scheduled in advance of when we anticipate that the operating budget will be adopted in January.
Any further questions? Seeing none, Councillor Bowman, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Hudson. Did the corporation or the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report C-039-25 as information? And that Council approve the dates recommended in report C-039-25 to form the 2026 regular council meeting schedule.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Our next staff report, OP 0225, radar speed sign policy. Mr. Graves.
I'm going to turn this one directly over to Matt, our engineer.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. So the purpose of this report is relating to 2 new speed radar signs that the OPP Detachment Board has procured. So this brings the town's total to 4 signs that we currently have. Historically, 2 have been installed on both entrances, east and west, up from Oxford Road 9 into town. So with getting these 2 new signs, we wanted to come up with a policy for consistent guidance and expectation for staff and the community to be able to request use of the sign and how the data is managed from there. So essentially, with this policy, a resident can make a request from a speed complaint. The OPP has advised that they don't want staff responding to speed complaints, but we could install these signs where in a recommended location. The Public Works Manager would confirm such location. We would have the signs installed for minimum 6 weeks, maximum 8 weeks, collect that data and use that data so that the OPP can have informed guidance and a positive response on the roadway could be experienced during that time when the sign is up, where drivers can realize what speed they're actually traveling at. So that's the intention of the policy, and we're looking for council to endorse such policy this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. There it was gone. So the policy and the disbursement of these speed signs, does that have to go through the traffic committee, or is it just going to be through the engineering department?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that would be administered through the engineering department. The results of the traffic data collected would go to the Transportation Committee on seeing such complaints, and just so everyone can still remain apprised of complaints that are received and how they're being managed with the OPP.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Councillor Hudson, please.
Thank you, Mayor, or Deputy Mayor, through you, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report OP-020-25 as information, and the Council approves the radar speed sign policy attached to this report.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Our next staff report, T-01825, Procurement Policy and Bylaw.
I'm actually going to speak to this one to start off a little bit. This one's been discussed a fair bit in the East Council chambers and has been discussed in broader public policy across Canada a lot lately. I'm quite like to follow Mr. Mike Myers and his elbows up, but I didn't have one of those shirts today to wear. So, but I think council will be happy with this policy because it gives some of the things that they wanted to see. But more importantly, we've seen changes in the legislation that allow us to do some of this. So we're following that. Of course, that's most important about ensuring that we're following legislation. I applaud Irina's work to get this put together because it took a fair bit of work to get it to this point. And with that, I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Michael. I can't steal the thunder from the Deputy Treasurer who actually prepared the report. Yes, and she will be more than happy to present the report and we will answer any questions Council may have after the presentation.
Good evening. So this report outlines recommended updates to the town's procurement policy to align with recent provincial and federal directives on supporting Canadian businesses through a Buy Canadian procurement strategy. The province of Ontario introduced a procurement restriction policy earlier this year that restricts certain U.S.-based businesses from bidding on provincial contracts, and the federal government will be phasing in a similar Buy Canadian policy starting this November. While these policies are not mandatory for municipalities, they provide a strong framework that many Ontario municipalities are adopting to support local growth and Canadian industries. Staff have reviewed these developments and looked at what other municipalities are doing in response to this. Based on this review, staff are recommending 3 amendments to our current policy. The recommendations are introducing a Buy Canadian procurement strategy section that aligns closely with the provincial policy, adjusting our procurement thresholds to increase flexibility in procurement, establish a preferred vendor list focused on pre-qualified Canadian suppliers. Staff do recognize that any Buy Canadian strategy must comply with Canada's trade obligations, and our recommendation would maintain compliance by limiting restrictions to procurements below set thresholds and including necessary exemptions. With Council's direction, staff will prepare the formal amendments to the procurement policy for your review and approval at a future meeting. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hughes?
Not so much a questions, comment. Great to have a look at this. I know earlier this year, Councillor Halleru brought through a notice of motion. I actually submitted a notice of motion for comment to staff back about a month and a half ago, and this looks like it does address basically everything that we were looking for in order to have this, a Buy Canadian procurement strategy, which, in today's economic lights and our current situation with the United States, definitely is something to, as Michael said earlier, to have elbows up on, and I like that it's going to be brought forward and hopefully accepted at future.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, Councillor Hughes, you have the motion.
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report T-018-25, Procurement Policy and Bylaw Update, Buy Canadian Procurement Strategy as information. and that council direct staff to prepare draft amendments to the procurement policy to include a new Buy Canadian procurement strategy section aligned with the provincial procurement restriction policy, adjustments to procurement thresholds to improve efficiency and align with municipal comparators, and to establish the establishment of a preferred vendor list subject to trade agreements, compliance, and safeguards to ensure transparency, competition, and accountability. And further, that the staff report back to council with the proposed policy amendments for consideration at a future meeting.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. All done with the staff reports, moving on to correspondence. Oh, I missed one. Sorry, I missed a staff report. We are going back to 2024 financial statements and surplus. Mr. Graves.
Thank you. Now, we'll just speak to this. I know Cameron was here earlier, and I know Irina would like to highlight a few things here. But I also just want to point out how important, Cameron did such a great job presenting there. It was very smooth. But it's really important to point out how beneficial it is that we bring our auditors here and they talk to us about our audited financial statements. This really creates transparency in government. It shows you that your public administration is doing what it's required to do. And we applaud and work with our auditors very closely. We appreciate their input. And this is just one of the tools, including, you know, codes of conduct, integrity commissioners, and other things that we have to ensure that everything's done properly. And so it's really important that we had him here today, and it's very good that it was a smooth report there. And I want to again applaud Irina's staff for making sure of that. But we really appreciate Cameron doing what he did earlier as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Irina.
Thank you. So as mentioned by the auditor earlier today, the town received a clean, unqualified audit opinion confirming that the financial statements comply with the public sector accounting standards. I also would like to remind council and public that the statements are consolidated to include not only the town's operations, but also the BIA and the Ingersoll Rural Cemetery Board. In 2024, the town reported a consolidated surplus of $8.5 million and an operating surplus of $1.4 million. The difference between these two figures reflect accounting adjustments required under the public sector accounting standards, including amortization, reserve transfers, debt principal payments, and capital-related adjustments. So in simple terms, the operating surplus of $1.4 million basically shows performance against our budget. And while the consolidated surplus of $8.5 million provides a broader view of the town's financial health and incorporates non-cash items like amortization that I mentioned previously, and also long-term obligations. The town's financial position remains strong. Financial assets increased by $6.4 million, and this was largely, primarily due to higher cash and investment balances following the sale of the piece of industrial land. The liabilities decreased by $3.3 million, and it's mainly reflecting reductions in the boundary adjustment liability, accounts payable, and our debt levels as well. Reserve and reserve fund balances grew by $7.4 million to a total of $25.6 million. Again, it's primarily from the sale of the land and also a prior year surplus allocations. Staff is recommending to allocate our 2024 operating surplus of $1.4 million as follows. $50,000 to the museum reserve to fund museum master plan, which was budgeted for completion in 2024, but carried over to 2025. $370,000 to the tax stabilization reserve to support the CAP tax increment grant program. And the remaining, a little over $1 million to be allocated to the arena facility reserve to fund the MURC construction. So if council has any questions, concerns, I will be more than happy to address them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. This is an interesting question. Why did you decide to commit or suggest that we put $370,000 into the tax stabilization reserve as opposed to putting it all into the arena facility reserve?
This was brought back in May or June when I presented our 12-month financial results. At that time, we indicated that we have a shortfall to fund these applications that were submitted later in the year and were not incorporated into 2025 budget. So in order for us to comply with the agreements, we have to find other ways to fund this initiative.
Any further questions? Seeing none, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report T-019-25 as information, and that the 2024 audited consolidated financial statement be received and approved. And further, that Council approves the $1,426,532.45 operating surplus to be allocated as follows: $50,000 to the museum reserve, $370,000 to the tax stabilization reserve, and $1,006,532.45 to the arena facility reserve.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? None opposed, that's carried. And now we are moving on to correspondence. Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, correspondence from the Rotary Club of Ingersoll, food and donation drive.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Bowman, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives the correspondence from the Rotary Club of Ingersoll as information, and that Council approve the club's request to hold a food and donation drive in the park next to the Creative Arts Centre from November 14th to December 23rd.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in, oh, sorry, Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens.
It's one way of getting some information about this out there. So the Rotary Club starts off, and then the Kiwanis Club will continue on, along with Lions and anyone else. So if anyone from council is wanting to come out, we usually are out in the park from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of each week during those 2 dates. And we're collecting the food and the money. We don't force anyone. We just are there with our buckets collecting. And if they've got food, then we put it into a trailer and secure it for the evening at someone's house and then get it to the food bank as well. So if you're interested, please let me know and I'd be happy to sign you up. It's for 2 hours from 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. Each one of those nights. So it's a great response that we have within our town. People are very generous, but no one is forced to. They're encouraged but not forced in any way, shape, or form. So, okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Our next correspondence, Councillor Bowman, also from the Rotary Club of Ingersoll, the Christmas Parade.
Yes, moved by myself, Councillor Bowman, seconded by Councillor Hudson, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives the correspondence from the Rotary Club of Ingersoll regarding the Christmas Parade as information.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Our next piece of correspondence from the Safe and Well Steering Committee, Councillor Hudson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the correspondence from the Safe and Well Oxford Steering Committee as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. And next, Councillor Hughes, correspondence from the Solicitor General about OPP billing.
Thank you. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll received the correspondence from the Solicitor General regarding an Ontario Provincial Police cost recovery model as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. And now, Councillor Hudson, if you could take us into the closed session, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, that Council do now go into a closed session meeting at 7:26 p.m. pursuant to Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss the following matters. Number 1, closed session minutes from August the 11th, 2025. Number 2, Section 2392D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, CAO 360 performance review. Number 3, Section 2392D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and 2392B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, Municipal Act Part V16. 1, impacts on affected employees, contract termination provisions.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed. That's carried. Okay, Councillor Hudson, approve the bylaws, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the bylaws 25-5415 to 25-5418 be approved, subject to section 284.114 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. Any discussion? Very efficient. I love it. All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried. And Councillor Hughes, to close out the meeting, please.
To close it out, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll adjourn the October 6, 2025 regular meeting of Council at 7:53 p.m.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? None opposed? That's carried, and we are all done.
Very good.